Just wing it. The reading, yes, I've definitely done that. What is this reading? I thought it was a revolutionary group. There must be someone misunderstanding. No one mentioned any reading. Kim, did you do the reading? I think this is quite funny. Did you do it, Kim?
No, detective. The only reading I've been doing is right here.
The lieutenant holds up his little blue notebook.
I have not had time to seek out pretentious communist book clubs, nor have I done their reading.
It doesn't sound like they've done the reading, Steban.
Well, this is getting awkward. I'm not sure what you're expecting to find here then.
Maybe they can explain themselves.
What exactly are you two doing here?
In the most generous sense, I would say we're cultivating revolutionary consciousness.
Yes, that's probably the best way to describe it.
But more specifically, we are running a reading group. It's the most rigorous and theoretically advanced materialist reading group in Martinaise.
Comrade Steban is a great discussion leader. One of the best at the university.
It's obvious they take this group of theirs extremely seriously. Whatever you do, don't compare it to a common book club.
We'll see about that logic.
Yawn. Can you imagine anything duller than a bunch of Beano-clads yanking each other's knobs?
Is this where I can square off in theory combat? Sounds like a place for intense intellectual engagement. Is that my kind of jam? Sounds like a regular book club. Sounds like a yank fest for Beanos. Sounds like an intellectual engagement.
That's our whole thing. The world is so shallow, all noise and repetition. We're interested in genuinely radical critique.
Precisely. We are not interested in senseless parroting. We like to read critically.
Within the contours of Mazovian historical materialism, of course.
I didn't realize they taught radical Mazovian theory in the universities. Okay, so what does your reading group actually read? I think I get the idea. Let me ask about something else. I didn't think they did it.
Huh. As though you can call that problem teaching.
One thing you learn quickly at university is that you're not going to find a real education in any lecture hall or discussion seminar.
Then why go?
We are post-attendance, basically.
Exactly. The only worthwhile part of the so-called École Normale de Revachol is the library. That's where we've made our greatest critical strides.
Kim, can we arrest these kids for truancy?
They are not primary school delinquents. They are university students. Attendance isn't compulsory. Besides, we are not a skip squad.
The Counter-Truancy Task Force, or SKIP Squad, is the division of the RCM that drives around in wagons looking for delinquent minors. It's generally considered a punitive assignment for underperforming officers.
Okay, so what does your reading group actually read?
We study all the foundational texts of Mazovian theory, of course. Just last week we finished the second volume of Puncher and Watman's Innocence of Capital.
Truly extraordinary.
And before that we spent 6 weeks on State and Plasm.
For some reason, the word plasm catches in your ear like a piece of old wax. Uh-oh. You can feel your attention span rapidly deteriorating.
Force yourself to keep listening.
We've also read Wertmüller's The Megastructure of History, and before that, Real and Reality.
Communist theorists love puns, in case that wasn't obvious.
Hablas un pain infernal.
The original Fizdale translation, not that watered down revisionist garbage.
These two deserve the Order of Honor for bullshitting. There's no way they've actually read all this stuff.
Obviously.
But, of course, our special emphasis is on the theories of Ignaz Nilsson and his followers, especially the inframaterialists.
Wait, who are these inframaterialists?
You're not familiar with them? It's pretty advanced stuff. You may not be ready for it yet, Gendarme.
The two young men exchanged skeptical side glances. Okay, but then who's this Ignaz Nilsson guy?
Only Krasmazov's most trusted lieutenant, the evangelist of the revolution, and a founding father of the People's Republic of Samara.
It's hard to overstate how unimpressed he is that you've never heard of this world historical individual.
He also happens to be the greatest communist theorist after Mazov himself. It was Nilsson who first postulated the existence of ideological plasm, which forms the basis of inframaterialist theory.
Those words again. You've got to find out what this inframaterialist stuff is all about. Whatever it is, one thing's perfectly clear. These young students have a much deeper understanding of communism than you do.
Well, you'd expect them to.
You could learn a thing or two from them. If you can convince them you're one of them. The young man sighs. His companion looks about furtively.
Where's the rest of the reading group?
What do you mean? This is the reading group.
So there's just 2 of you?
We're in something of a rebuilding phase.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the ideological fortitude our work demands.
Okay, but what happened to them?
Intellectual attrition is maybe the best way to describe it. Felix said he couldn't keep up with the reading on top of his classwork. And Susanna wanted to read text other than Mazovian theory. Like novels, if you can believe it.
Imagine the audacity of wanting to read a novel in a reading group.
Novels, unbelievable. I like a good novel every now and then. Maybe you just haven't found the right group. I like a good novel every now and then.
Oh, sure. But you can always join a book club if that's what you're into. We've tried recruiting new members, but unfortunately the current intellectual climate is pretty hostile to inframaterialist thought. These days, if you're on the left, the ascendant schools are the Godwaldians and their iconoclasts.
Don't forget about Maurice and the turnips.
Right. Then there was the whole turnip debacle.
What's so bad about the Gothwaldians?
They're the most depressing school of communism. They love writing long books with a patina of Mazovian theory to cover up their cheap psychologizing.
A gang of cheap psychologists and intellectual midgets. Typical Gottwalders, in other words.
It's okay for Uli to say that, because his dad is from Gottwald.
What's so depressing about their theories?
The Gottwald school believe that intellectuals as a class are capable of sparking revolutionary change. So all they can do is critique capitalism from inside itself.
I mean, that's not inaccurate.
In other words, they have lost faith in their own relevance.
That's why they spend all their time smoking cigarettes and writing long works of criticism that make you want to commit suicide.
That sounds miserable.
It is miserable. That's probably why they're always committing suicide. You see, the Gottwald school look like communists. They talk like communists. But scratch the patina and you'll see beneath that they're just depressed liberals who've read too many books.
Okay, what about the iconoclasts?
For starters, they love talking about beans.
Beans? What's wrong with beans? I like beans. No beans for me, can't stand the stuff. I personally can't stand beans.
You're no iconoclast then. They're obsessed with beans. They love thinking about beans. They love counting beans. But most of all, they love building models to predict how many beans there'll be in the future.
Nota bene, iconoclast is an extra pejorative form of the already pejorative name, Mazovian economists, a moderate school of Mazovianism which advocates the gradual transition to communism through carefully managed economic modernization rather than violent social revolution.
They're by far the most bean-centric school of communism.
I don't get it. Are the beans a metaphor? Isn't it good to know how many beans there are? What's wrong with making progress through moderate and economic reforms? Isn't it good to know how many beans there are?
See, you're already falling for that scarcity logic. You start off assuming there aren't enough beans to go around. So naturally you want to cut the bean rations in half. And next thing you know, there are budget cuts. So now we've got to cut the bean rations in half again. You see, iconoclasts claim to be communists. But in reality, they're just liberals with hard-ons for spreadsheets.
And what about the liberals? Are they liberals too?
Of course not. The only people who actually call themselves liberals are mouth-foaming reactionaries.
Basically indistinguishable from fascists. You'd need an X-ray machine to tell the difference.
What about Cindy? Is she part of the group?
Cindy is... how to describe her role?
Something of an ideological auxiliary, perhaps.
Yes, that's exactly how I would put it. And naturally, we support her radical counter-liberal aesthetics.
But she refuses to submit an essay, so we can't call her a member of the group per se.
That doesn't stop her from using the room for studio space, of course.
Did you say something about turnips?
It's an unfortunate story. You see, our ex-comrade Maurice is something of an economist.
He's studying macro and microeconomics.
Wow, a real intellectual, it sounds like.
Lieutenant arches his eyebrows.
Right. So a few weeks ago we were discussing the extra physical capabilities of the revolutionary state. And Maurice said... what were his exact words, Ulex's?
It was unbelievable. He said, turnips don't care if they are grown by communists, moralists, or Welkin. They grow just the same.
That's right.
Basically, he was rejecting the whole foundation of inframaterialist theory.
What is this inframaterialist business they keep blathering about? You've never heard of anything like it.
Remind me what inframaterialist theory says about turnips again.
Simply that under suitably revolutionary conditions, crop yields naturally increase relative to non-revolutionary crops, which Morris somehow has the gall to deny.
But what are the conditions?
Susanna said that he has been hanging out with some non-communists lately.
For us, the question boiled down to, if you don't even accept the basic ideas of Nielsen and inframaterialist theory, why are you in the reading group?
So you expelled Maurice from the reading group over an argument about turnips.
Well, it wasn't so much that he was expelled.
He just quit coming. We haven't seen him around for weeks.
Alright, I've heard enough, let's talk about something else.
Go ahead.
What were you doing with the matchboxes?
The young man frowns at the little pile of boxes on the floor.
Nothing, just messing around until the meeting started.
But there were only the two of you.
They're watching those matchboxes awfully intently for two guys who are just messing around. It's almost as though they were trying to create the most unstable structure they could, with predictable results.
You two wrote that article in La Fumée, didn't you?
You've read our article.
For the first time since you met him, the young man, the words seemed to desert him.
That I did not expect.
His companion is blushing now, a sheepish grin on his face.
The energy in the room has shifted ever so slightly in your favor. They're afraid they've somehow embarrassed themselves in front of you.
Well, don't keep us on tenterhooks. What did you think of the essay?
Time to meet these two on the intellectual battlefield. Why don't you show off those highly developed critical faculties of yours?
It was a good article, you should keep developing your ideas.
Well, of course that's just an initial foray into the subject. We're hoping to return to it for a more substantial treatment next term. In any case, I'm glad our piece found its audience. That's always the hope with these things, you know.
Is the reading group accepting new
We
members?
typically only accept new members once per semester. There's this whole process with essays and presentations on assigned topics.
The young man turns to a companion.
But given that we have some extra seating at the moment, I guess we could be convinced to expedite an application or two.
Steban, you can't be serious. For these gendarmes?
I am serious. As materialists, we've got to adapt to conditions as they are. Besides, we still need to pass the interview portion of the entrance process.
He turns back to you.
Assuming he's even still interested, that is.
Ooh, Composure 5, Impossible check of 18. Convince them you belong in the reading group, but +8, Voracious Bibliophilic Teratorn. I assume that means I've been reading a lot of books. So, yeah, let's go.
What's there to be scared of? You've really been cracking the books these last few days. You can go toe-to-intellectual toe with any reading group in Martinez. You've spent a not inconsiderable amount of time arranging the works in your mental library by theme and period. All the ideas and references you'll need are ready at hand. Now, chin up. You've got this.
This is just the group I've been looking for. When do we start?
Oh, you want to start now? Sure, we can manage that.
You've caught him off balance. The momentum is already in your favor.
Go ahead and take a seat. Since we haven't had time to prepare an exhaustive questionnaire, I think we can keep this interview more freeform. Why don't you tell us a bit about the books you're interested in, and we'll just see where the conversation goes.
Like you guys, I really get into political and historical subjects. For me, it's more about finding the right thing for the right moment. I'm more into practical books, books that help me understand the real world. Look guys, I gotta be honest, I may not have read many books, but that doesn't mean I don't have stories. I think I'm more into practical books that help me understand the real world.
Aha, a real old-school pedestrian materialist. Alright, we'll play along. So what sort of practical works are we talking about?
I enjoy thinking about truly fundamental concepts like the alphabet, for instance. Or just consider the cockatoo, for instance. How much do you really know about what they're like?
Cockatoos. Fascinating. So tell us what you gathered from your ornithological researches.
This is a good start. They're starting to loosen up. You feel relaxed and in control. This is a subject where you hold all the advantages.
And that's how I discovered that I'm really just a regular bang bang kind of guy.
I have to say, I never realized humans and cockatoos have so much in common. It makes sense though. Mazovianism stresses the essential continuity between humanity and nature. So anything you find in one should be reflected in the other. What's the exact quote, Uli?
I believe it's man is the mirror of the world.
These kids are eating out of your hand, practically. Another quarter of an hour disappears. The questions come rapid fire, but you have an answer for every one. Now you can sense things starting to slow down. The interview must be reaching an inflection point.
Don't you think, though, that you can only really understand current events if you have a firm background in history and political theory?
There might be something to that. I recently finished The Greatest Innocence. Listen, books are fine and all, but to be straight with you, there's no substitute for a real story. No, I just finished The Greatest Innocence.
Don't think I'm familiar with it. Give us a quick summary, if you don't mind.
Now's your chance to end this interview on a high note. You quickly gloss Lopez de Fuego's essential argument, peppering it with your own commentary and asides.
But then, any critical account of Dolores Day's reign has to seriously reckon with her atrocities in Margretania and La Vuelta during the Mesque secession, don't you think?
Lopez de Fuego seemed to think she was pretty great regardless.
Total nonsense. The greatest thing Dolores Day ever did was get blasted by her own terrier.
If he wants a real critical history, he's got to read on the material conditions of the Mirovan Boilermakers.
He's so good. Brutally revelatory. In any case, I think we've heard enough. We could use someone with your perspective in the group, with just a bit more theoretical foundation. I think you'll be making real contributions.
Yes, I would say he's got serious potential at least.
And with that, welcome to the most ideologically advanced materialist reading group in Martinez.
Thank you.
Here's your first assignment. It's an overview of inframaterialist theory. A little basic, as you'll see, but one has to start somewhere.
I'll add it to my very extensive reading
You're
list.
going to fit right in, I think. Come back when you're done. We'll be here pretty much every night after 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Do be sure to take your time with the reading. We'll be eager to hear your thoughts.
Sure. Did this reading group have anything to do with lynching?
Lynching? No. We're not an operational cell.
We think of ourselves as more of an intellectual vanguard.
Are you sure? My working theory is that communism killed the hanged man. Is your reading group affiliated with the Union somehow? Are there any operational communists in Martinez? Are you affiliated with the Union?
No, we're an independent organization. We acknowledge and respect the Union's efforts, but our interests are more theoretical than Mr. Clare's.
He speaks the truth.
Are you sure? Communism may have killed the hanging man.
To be clear, communism is not an official suspect in this investigation, because it's not a person, you see.
Seems unlikely from a strictly inframaterialist perspective.
Comrade Ulix is right. The amount of plasm required to strike down an ideological enemy outright is enormous. We're talking second-level effects, at a minimum.
Or even third.
What are these levels they're talking about? This doesn't sound like any communism you've encountered before.
In any case, it's not like the SRV has established a party line on the subject of lynchings in Martinez.
The two young men look at one another.
Though historically speaking, the SRV has supported direct action against right-wing paramilitary squads, especially when they are doing the Indo-tribes' dirty work.
Good point. So as a provisional matter, I can say we support it.
Are they being sarcastic? You feel like you're caught in some elaborate joke labyrinth, but it's impossible to see your way through.
So what's your stance on crime in general?
That's easy. Crime is simply the inevitable expression of the injustice and incoherence embedded within capitalism itself.
Delivered with the smug assurance of a schoolboy reciting a maxim he's committed to memory.
It's a symptom, in other words, not a cause.
He waves his hand as though this is all there is to say on the subject of crime.
His companion can barely suppress a yawn.
Are there any operational communists in Martinez?
No, unfortunately. The communards were hunted down and killed nearly to a man. All that's left of them are bones and old rifles.
Like this one, showing the Belmargrave rifle.
His companion's eyes widen as you hold up the ancient weapon.
Yes, like that one. I wonder how many of these are still lying around in cellars or sealed up behind the masonry.
He knits his brows together and then looks up.
Can I hold it?
Sure, it doesn't work. Here.
It's heavier than I was expecting.
The rifle rests in his open palms. Its position reminds you of something.
Though what, exactly, you can't say. He turns the rifle over again, admiring the glint of light off the oily barrel. When he's finished, he returns the rifle to you with a nod of appreciation.
Alright, that's it. Alright, and the thoughts?
Cleaning out the rooms. What if you didn't lose your memory? What if something in Martinez came and stored it all away, for you to slowly open one box at a time, so you can choose which parts to keep? Keep almost none of it. Only the flowers on the windowsill. Only the distant sound of a radio. Lose all the actors, the dark shadows. Leave only the still lifes. The blissful distant wash of waves. If everybody knew, you never did. She'll be coming soon. That is all.
Bonus. +1 suggestion, +1 Inland Empire, +1 rhetoric. Wake up in a new life by the seaside. Alright. Well, I mean, it's an overall bonus because it just increases my stats, but yeah, that's not amazing. So if I need to get rid of something, that is another option I can potentially do. Well, they did give more suggestion, so, you know, another bonus for getting the date with Lillian. And yeah, I think that will probably do it for today. So we have our task here of confronting the pigs to get the gun back. She should still be around until 2 o'clock, and it is 12:10. We can explore the stuff in this room next time, I would say. But yeah, I think that is where I'm going to wrap up the stream for today. So, thanks for watching the stream, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can follow us at twitch.tv to watch us when we play the games live. You can also subscribe to us over on YouTube in case you've missed any of the previous playthrough. This playthrough has been some time going, as you can probably tell, hence it's got January. And we make a save and it'll say April. But the whole playthrough should go up onto YouTube, and I'll organize it into a playlist so that people can, you know, watch it there. We've also got Discord, TikTok, Twitter. Discord and Twitter are the best places to keep notified of when we go live. Discord will have an automatic notification. Twitter is when I'll actually post a tweet to say, hey, I'm live. And we try and stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at around 8 PM UK time. It's more like around 9 PM UK time, just because of the, you know, the way things work at home with a young child. But that's what we try and aim for. And we are currently playing through, of course, Disco Elysium and Xenoblade 3. So next time we play, it should be more Disco Elysium, I think. But it could be Xenoblade. So if you're interested in either of those, then feel free to tune in. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.